Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Tamara Daily. I teach in the Department of Psychology, Neuroscience, and Human Development at the University of Mount Union. We're all kind of coming back into this week with a new normal, and it doesn't quite feel normal yet. So I wanted to take an opportunity to give you some hints and suggestions about how you can be mindful of your mental health during our, I'm calling it our Corona semester. You might be asking yourself, so now what? You've heard from your colleges and universities that your semester is going online. Trust me, for faculty, this is a shocker too. Many of us don't usually teach online, so we're having to scramble to get new skills in a hot minute. So, my first message is be patient with your faculty. We're all trying to figure it out at the same time as you are. My university, University of Mount Union, has gone online for the foreseeable future. We don't quite know when that's going to end, and that means our routines have gone out the crapper. Forgive the phrase. We can't predict what's going to happen in the long term. I've been struggling, like many of you, to try and avoid rumors and forecasting doom and gloom, especially when going to the grocery store and seeing that people are hoarding the most amazing things like toilet paper and butter and hand sanitizer. This is my entire supply of hand sanitizer, 3 travel bottles of hand sanitizer. That's all I've got. So it's super stressful. We all know this, it's super stressful. And if you're college students, you can't be with your friends. You left for spring break, many of you, and now you don't get to reunite and get to share your adventures of spring break with all your friends and share your stresses about all the exams you have to take and all the projects that are now going to maybe change in form and shape. So here's some advice from reputable sources about coping strategies that you can take, and also some information to help you understand why you might be feeling what you're feeling as we all kind of transition to this new situation that we're in. Now, full disclosure, I have taken the vast majority of the information from this presentation from sources like the CDC, SAMHSA, which are both federal agencies, and in those cases I place on the slides references, not full references, but the names of those organizations. I figure it's my taxpayer dollars. I can use whatever I want from those websites. I've also included some information from an organization called Active Minds, which is dedicated to mental health awareness and education and outreach specifically for college students. So, coping with social distancing and isolation. Don't do like this Italian guy who rather creatively created a cardboard hoop skirt that he wears to keep people at least 6 feet away from him. I don't recommend it. It's meme-worthy, but probably not your best strategy. So, first, remember, everyone reacts differently. You're not an exception to this rule. My husband and I were at the grocery store, and we had to suppress laughter as we walked past a man who was wearing a black bandana over the bottom of his face and talking into his phone about cleaning his car with Q-tips, and maybe he said something about bleach. I'm not sure. Everybody reacts differently. If you're feeling worried or anxious, that's normal. I feel the same way. During spring break, I was with a group of college students, an exceptional group of college students. We were on a work trip doing hurricane rehab in St. Croix. As the news started getting to us in the middle of spring break week that our university was going to be shutting down, we all got kind of anxious. So what's going to happen? What about my campus job? What about this? What about that? What about graduation? So you may be worried about lots of different things. First and foremost, about your own health, about the people you love. You may even get angry or stressed out If people, especially if you were traveling over break, if people are like suspicious, maybe you're sick, maybe you should stay away for 2 weeks. And you know, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being seen as a typhoid Mary. So it may make you angry or stressed out. You also may be feeling like there are some people who want to constantly ask you, do you have a fever? Or have you washed your hands? Have you used your hand sanitizer in copious amounts? That can be annoying, and it can be add to your stress and the stress of other people. At the same time, you may be feeling like every little cough and sneeze that you feel like you might be having, does it mean I have coronavirus, or is it just that I sniffed too much mold? We've had a weird winter. It's not been frozen. There are lots of allergens out there that we're not used to at this time of the year, but it may cause you to pause. Again, back to the grocery store, I happened to sneeze into my elbow, mind you, and I thought the woman that I passed in the aisle of the grocery store, I thought her eyes were going to grow 16 sizes too large for her head. Um, this can make us all anxious. Not knowing what's going to happen with your classes, with graduation, with your campus jobs, your off-campus jobs, your parents' jobs, your brothers and sisters not being able to go to school. It may just be freaking you out. Um, it can be just a challenge to get the things you need for daily life, getting prescription medications, getting to appointments being canceled, all kinds of stuff like that is adding to stress. I won't even go into the idea that you're making possibly an unplanned visit, extended visit, to hang with your family when you're used to doing stuff all by yourself, um, and controlling your own schedule. So what can all this stress lead to? And this information comes from the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. And full disclosure, this is mostly copied and pasted. So one of your first stress reactions may be that you find a lot that you're preoccupied a lot, being concerned about being able to take care of people that you're responsible for. Many of the students I was with over break have younger siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, whatever, and they worry about their grandparents and being able to do what they need for those people that they care about. You may be uncertain and frustrated about how long the situation is going to last. You know, we all got the email that gives us a date that we're going to stay online for at least this long, but then you turn the news on and you have people saying, like the mayor of New York saying, he wouldn't be surprised at all if the New York City public schools are going to remain closed for the rest of the school year. So we're all facing a lot of uncertainty and frustration. You can start feeling lonely really fast. If you're used to being with your friends, if you're used to being with your coworkers, like I am, I'm used to going to work and having my routine, having coffee and joking with Dr. Meyer and all of my other colleagues in the department. I'm used to having coffee and lunch and seeing all my students, and it gets kind of lonely not being able to have that routine. You could be angry. I've been in major airports over the last several days. Like we were all in the Miami International Airport. It was a high density environment. Every once in a while you'd see someone maybe in the bathroom and you'd think that person did not wash their hands, and it makes you kind of mad. So you worry about being able to rely on complete strangers and their ability to do these appropriate social distancing and hygiene tasks that we've been told are necessary to keep us all safe. You're going to get bored, you're going to get frustrated because you don't have your normal activities. You know, I'm sure that athletes who've had their seasons canceled are experiencing a lot of grief and frustration. Some of them are seniors, they don't get to have their senior season. Even though the NCAA is extending their eligibility, they in all likelihood are not coming back to college for another year if they're seniors. And that's all very frustrating. It also, you know, whether you're an athlete or not, you can get bored when you don't have your usual things to do, and your usual ways uh, to to entertain yourself. Um, Uncertainty and ambivalence about the situation is likely to occupy some of your mind in the coming days and weeks. This may turn into a desire to just shut your brain down. It's very tempting to say, you know what, I just don't want to think right now. I don't want to think about anything or anyone, so I'm just going to drink a lot, maybe use some illicit substances so I can shut my brain off. Doing that a lot is not a healthy coping strategy and can lead to a lot of negative health outcomes. Stress can turn into depression, so you need to be mindful of how you're feeling. If you're starting to feel hopeless and your appetite changes, your sleep patterns are changing, and it persists for a significant amount of time, you may be experiencing some depression. You may also be experiencing probably not symptoms of full-blown PTSD, but you may be experiencing some intrusive thoughts or even changes in mood that are associated with PTSD, even if it's just having watched things on the news. So be mindful of that as well. How can you reduce some of the stress that you're experiencing? Again, this comes from SAMHSA. Um, First and foremost, find reliable sources to get your information. Don't rely on bad information, especially from social media and from the rumor mill among maybe your friends on your Snapchat or however you communicate with your friends. Be sure to go to reliable sources. Now, the two main sources that I use to update myself are the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the World Health Organization. I also, many of my students will know this, I am an NPR junkie. I listen to my local NPR station, WKSU, every day in the morning and in the evening, sometimes all day long if I just want it on in the background. So I focus on reliable sources who can keep me up to date. That said, avoid obsessively listening to or watching the news because it can negatively impact your mood, especially if you're using news sources that are not balanced and reliable. Do not, as I already said, rely on social media. So much garbage is on social media. I fielded a lot of questions while I was on break from students on the trip who said, you know, my mom saw this on Facebook, ... And I said, did you fact check that on the CDC site? And the student said, no, let's go do that. And her fears were allayed at that point because what had been shared on Facebook was false information. Don't be afraid to ask real questions. Again, you know, I was with this amazing group of students for a week in St. Croix, and I fielded a lot of questions. I asked them questions about their perspective as students who were now going to be coming back home into this online environment. Ask questions, and if you don't know the answers, don't speculate. Look to reliable sources to find the answers, whatever those answers might be. And that means when you come back to campus, talk to your faculty, either by phone, by email, whatever means you can. If you happen to still be on campus, chances are pretty good that faculty are going to be around because they need to use the technology that's available to them on campus to do this online transition. So communicate with your faculty. If you have on-campus and off-campus jobs and you're worried about them, don't wait for an email to come to you. Reach out to your supervisors and ask them what you need to do. If you've been traveling, this is especially important. You need to find out what's the protocol at your place of employment, what's the protocol at your school. Some schools you have to fill out a form. As we did at Mount Union, we had to fill out a form indicating where we'd been over break. And some people have looked at that as being very intrusive and none of their business. But I understand the purpose of it. It's so that if we do have cases They have the information they need to track who's been exposed and who hasn't been exposed, who needs to be monitored and who doesn't need to be monitored. So while it seems creepy in 1984, it's absolutely appropriate for the university to do that. If some of the students that I was with mentioned, how am I going to be able to pay my bills? I need my campus job. I need my paycheck. What if I don't have that? What's going to happen? So if you are facing additional financial burdens because of what's going on, make sure you reach out to your financial aid office, again, to your employers and supervisors to find out what you are entitled to and how you can apply for that. If you have off-campus jobs in whatever your state is, there will be different eligibilities for unemployment, but you do have to fill out forms to make that magic happen. I found this information really useful. Lots of universities across the country have posted some of these lists, and they all contain basically the same kind of information. I found this on the Mount Holyoke website and have borrowed from it extensively, changing a word or two here and there. How can you take care of yourself? There are some really simple things that you can do in order to keep yourself and your mind less obsessive and less upset and less worried while we're all kind of enduring our involuntary separation from our universities. First, establish for yourself a new healthy routine. I told my husband yesterday, and my husband has been working out in the morning for months. He gets up, he goes down in the basement, he turns on the rerun of the Colbert night show, and he rides the exercise bike. So I said, I'm going to get up and work out with you every morning. Well, today was the first day. I was late to the party, but I got on the treadmill. I did my 30 minutes. Some of you do meditation. If you don't know it, there are lots of free apps and some paid apps that are really good for practicing meditation, practicing mindfulness. And you can Google relaxation techniques or go on YouTube and get tutorials and even live streamed meditation practice available to you. Pay some attention to positive news, to silly, funny things that people do. It was a nice moment when we saw the guy in the grocery store with the bandana, where my husband and I could just laugh at each other, at the situation, and just keep trying to be positive. We ran into so many people at the grocery store at the same time we were there, friends of ours, acquaintances. We joked about how we do this now, we don't shake hands, we elbow bump, we fist bump, whatever. Try to keep that positive outlook. It doesn't mean you don't care about what's going on. It doesn't mean you're not taking it seriously, but life has to be lived. And it helps if you can do that with a sense of humor and some enjoyment. So keep looking at those kitten videos. Keep looking at funny videos of dogs doing hilarious things if it helps you. Remind yourself that you've coped with a lot of hard things before. Most of us have. We've dealt with difficult situations. We've had experiences that challenged us. Remember that you have resiliency. You've coped with things in the past. Think about how you communicate with others and what you're talking about. It is important. I'm a psychologist, although I don't have a license to help anybody with anything. I'm an experimental psychologist. But it's important that you share your feelings. If you're feeling stressed and anxious, you should talk to other people about it. If you feel like you're lonely and you want to talk to someone about being lonely, talk about being lonely. If you need to vent with someone who's your usual vent buddy. But you should do this in moderation. It's kind of like, if you get the giant-sized bag of M&Ms, a handful is enough. So try moderation. Also, you may feel compelled to check in with your loved ones a lot. Don't be that person who obsessively checks in on loved ones and scares the bejesus out of them. So check in with your people, but do so in moderation, so that you don't scare yourself and scare them unnecessarily. And finally, remember, you're allowed to say no. You can tell people, I have boundaries. I'm not comfortable with doing X, Y, or Z. I'm going to stay home or whatever. So be mindful that you have a right to set your own boundaries and to control them. So one thing that the SAMHSA says, that I think is really important, is to stay connected. And there are lots of ways for us to do this. Use your phone, use email, use text messaging, use social media to keep in touch with your friends and your family. And for college students especially, as we launch into this new online-only reality, make sure that you are in touch with your faculty. I've been reaching out to all of my classes and to my advisees, sending them email updates on where I'm at in terms of preparations. Feel free to reach out to your faculty if you have questions, if you have concerns. I know the students on my campus, registration for fall and summer classes starts next week. So I'm going to have to figure out how to have Zoom meetings with my students to get them ready for registration, because I do require my students to have a face-to-face with me before I authorize them to register. So we're just going to do it a different way, and it'll probably get messed up, but whatever. Use the internet, use radio, TV to keep up with local events. As you know, we saw just yesterday, all the bars and restaurants are closed in the state of Ohio. Yay! I hope the Wendy's drive-through still will work, because I'm pretty sure my 17-year-old will not do well without a Wendy's fix at least once a week. But we'll see. Keep up. Keep up with what's new, what's changing. Make sure you check your Mount Union email or your university's email on a regular basis so that you know what's happening and you're not functioning in an information vacuum. There are lots of helplines that you can call. Of course, there's SAMHSA's 24-hour hotline. There's the crisis text line. There are lots of local resources that you can use. Self-care is pretty important, and Active Minds, on my campus and many campuses around the country, there are Active Minds chapters. Here's some simple advice for things that you can do to take care of yourself, distract yourself, comfort yourself if you're feeling distressed or worried or anxious or unhappy. Cleaning is my favorite. I am a stress cleaner. When I got home from my trip, one of the first things I did was a deep clean of the entire downstairs of my house, because no one had done it when I was gone. So I did stress cleaning. You can cook, you can bake, you can look at your to-do list, or you can make your to-do lists. I'm big on lists. Lists make me happy. You can get some exercise. You may not be able to go get a massage, but maybe there's someone in your house who can give you a massage. Go for a walk. I was very happy to see yesterday that we have wonderful walking trails in Plain Township through the Stark Parks. There were tons of people outside walking in the sunlight, saying hello to each other from an appropriate distance, and just being outside. You can listen to music, listen to a podcast, do some artwork, meditate, do mindfulness exercises, play games. It was delightful to be on this trip with this group of students. Every time they had downtime, these students were playing games. I actually got pulled into a 2 truths and a lie game while on the trip. Play games with your friends, play with your family. If you're stuck in a house with a bunch of siblings, get the board games out, get the video games out, play games. It will make you laugh. Try not to be too competitive though. Learn how to do deep breathing exercises. I have a watch that makes me do it when I get too stressed. Now I'll probably turn it on occasionally and then do it without my heart rate variability going way too high. You could take a bath, take a shower, take a nap, but make sure you wake up in time so that it doesn't disrupt your sleep at night. You can watch movies. I'm thinking about going online after I finish this presentation and maybe finding where can I watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because it would make me happy. To do that, you could learn yoga. I'm not very good at yoga. I fall over a lot. So any of those, add to the list. You know, some things that make you happy and make you enjoy, um, uh, make you feel joy. So add to this list, modify it, share it with your friends, and help yourselves feel better. So my final thoughts, um, make sure that you are mindful of how you're feeling. If you are feeling stressed, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling disconnected, reach out to people, talk to them. If you're feeling particularly anxious about your classes, communicate with your faculty to get some reassurance about what the next steps are. And they may say, I'm working it out, I'm figuring it out. I know my university is closed today and tomorrow so that faculty can get ready for the online launch on Wednesday. So there are some things we haven't figured out yet, and hopefully your faculty will be transparent with you about that, that they're just trying to figure it out. But it can be reassuring to you to know that your faculty are scrambling just like you're going to be to figure out how all these things work. So those are my suggestions. And that's about it. Good luck. Be patient with your faculty. Be patient with your family members. We'll all get through this. We've gotten through worse. We've gotten through easier. I have faith that we will persevere and we'll all get back to school eventually. And I really, really hope that there's a baseball season, because of all the things I do to cope, watching baseball is pretty important to me. And I'm really not happy that the season's not starting. Anyway, take care, monitor yourselves in moderation, use your hand sanitizer, wash your hands while singing your ABCs, and we'll see you in those online classes.